Well, good morning, folks, and welcome back to Tim's Offgrid. We're going to get into more data acquisition with the tests that we're doing. It's a shot in the dark for me to assume the CFMs that are flowing through, and also the effectiveness of any tests that I'm doing. So I bought 3 more Yolink remote temperature devices. I was already using these other Yolink temperature devices like this, but you always needed the app. At least with this one, I can put the probes in and I can mount the device on the exterior so we can see the reading in real time. I've also got these devices set to capture data in 5-minute increments. Next thing is I got a booster fan also. So I got another Yolink smart plug to power the booster fan on the supply. And then the exhaust fan will always continuously run. So the first place we're going to capture data, duct inlet, and then I'm going to capture data as air goes into the top of the drip edge. I'll capture data as air leaves through the bottom of the drip edge. I'll capture data back here as air leaves the heat exchanger, and I'll capture data over here at the duct exiting. So first things first, we need to take the glass off. And the other thing I want to say is I got an anemometer so that I can capture flow rates. It captures in feet per minute, but once you multiply by the square inches of a 4-inch duct, which I believe was 12.56 square inches, then you've got the cubic feet per minute from the feet per minute. So what I saw with all the restrictions I've imposed, that fan was producing about 87 cubic feet per minute at full speed, not 180. So it's like 100 off. So that booster fan that I got will help with that. So we're going to go ahead and take this apart here, and I'm going to put in these RTDs and get this set up for capturing data. So before I take that glass off, I did want to show a picture, or I did want to show the flow meter that I got. Comes in a case. It was like $39, might have been $59 because this one has Bluetooth capabilities, I believe it is. So this is it right here, and it's very sensitive. You can see here, just moving it like that. And I was getting over 200 feet per minute, just moving it through there. So it worked really well last night during the testing. I also got hose clamps with thumb screws, so I'm hoping to make the takeoffs easier to put on and off because I don't want to leave this outside. We even had snow last night, so I would not have wanted to keep this thing out in the snow. So let's get that going. So I'll swap all this out and get this taken apart. I'll keep these down on the floor so they stay close by and go back to where they came off. So I'm not putting new holes in places all the time, but rather we're taking off and putting back into the same locations. The other thing I wanted to say is I did watch a lot of videos where folks used a lot of sealing compounds when they were putting theirs together. The fact that I don't have any sealing compounds makes it easier for me to do changes on here. It's just undoing these screws in different locations and I have access to everything. I've been using like gasketing material in certain locations versus a bunch of silicone or RTV or anything like that. one more week of wearing this cast and this thing will be gone. I'll go into a splint. Also wanted to step up my game because a lot of people are viewing these videos now, so we're getting a lot more traction than what we used to have, which is fantastic, but the quality of my videos was not awesome. So I'm trying to step up quality by having better microphones so you can hear what I'm saying in the video. And I will get a new camera here in a little while as well. And I've been using some video editing software that I haven't used before. So I'm getting used to some of that. So let me just get a couple of these pillows. This room here that I'm going to be using for the testing is a breezeway between the house and the garage. So it's really good for testing because it's an isolated space. I can set things up in here and do different things and not have to worry about having to take my tests apart or anything like that. So I'm taking the labyrinth stuff. I never did adhere it in there. So I'm taking it out. I noticed when we had this set up out here, the only difference was when we had it set up in front of the house, there was no plenum and the takeoffs weren't there. And we hit over 100 degrees. I put those labyrinths in there. I put this intake plenum. I put the ducts on there. And then we couldn't get more than like 95 or 96 degrees. So we lost like 10 degrees. So was it thermal losses in the ducting? Was it the air spending too much time in here now? So there's too much contact between the air and the glass, and I'm losing heat through heat transfer with the cold glass. So that was one thing I was thinking too, a second glass. I'll have an insulation barrier here. So the light's still going to penetrate both panes of glass. We'll keep everything within the first pane of glass. There's less heat transfer because we create an insulation barrier between the two pieces of glass. So I thought about that. And I think that actually might work. All right, so the first RTD, and long ago when I was in the Navy, RTD was just remote temperature device. The first RTD we're going to put down here because I want to have an idea of what the temperature is up here as the air's passing through and going down. So I'm going to pick this middle one. I think that's the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're going to use the middle one. And maybe I should have kept that tie because the sure is long. So when we're done, I'm going to mount this one right there. So I have an idea of what's happening here. The next one, we're going to flip the box back over. And I got to put it on the back. So let me just put this over here for a few minutes while I put the glass back on. Or maybe I put it down here. So I'm trying to keep this neat. Neatish as much as possible. And this room is it's about 37 in this room, or maybe a little even colder than that. All right, that's good. I'm going to push it down just a little bit. We're going to put the glass back on, flip it over, and we're going to put the other sensors on there. The sun's starting to come up right now. Also, what I noticed in yesterday's test was when this box starts out at ambient temperature in the morning, every surface in this box, to include every piece of metal, every piece of wood, every piece of insulation, starts out at ambient temperature. So if it is 10 degrees outside, everything's 10 degrees. So keep that in mind. There is the rate at which everything needs to heat up to actually begin to do something and start testing. So I did notice that was quite a long time yesterday for all that to transpire. So that's something to take into account. You can't get into a rush with any of that for sure. All right. We're going to put all this back on, and then I will stand this box up so we can put the sensor in the back. And I'm seeing already, this is This is tough to get everything back to where it came from. But I think if I screw these down a little bit, I can nab their initial holes. But I wanted to capture some of the time I'm having to spend getting this thing prepped up to run tests, because I think that's important. If you want to build one of these, there is an up cost. There's an upfront investment. Everything comes with an upfront investment, of course. So you have your upfront investment, and look, I had less than $200 in these materials, and I'll put together a build list. But then all these sensors, the meter, the flow meter for air, and everything else, all that adds up. These sensors were like $30 a piece. The airflow meter was, I think, $60, but you can get the cheaper airflow meter also that doesn't have Bluetooth. I thought Bluetooth would be neat, because then I could do screenshots of the data from the flow meter versus screenshots of the flow meter in action, which I've been doing. And I thought that would be cool to be able to add something that looks more professional to the videos that captures the data. And like I said earlier, I would put that second glass right on top of here. That gives me a 1-inch layer between the two panes of glass. And I would gasket both sides of the second piece of glass, by the way, because I would really want it to act as an insulation barrier. Think about your storm windows that have, I think it's argon in there. So that acts as an insulation barrier. And I would try to create something here, because when it's super cold outside, and that's really when you want this thing to be working, there's heat transfer losses that are going to take place. No doubt. And I just want to give a huge shout out to a couple of my big time supporters that are clearly watching the videos and giving me feedback. Kevin and Jim. So appreciate y'all. Thanks for all the feedback. So them more than anybody probably appreciate that I got a better microphone now, so people know what the heck I'm saying. Hey, maybe in the future I'll come up with a faster way. You know, I was in drag racing for many years, so of course we could take parts of the truck apart really fast with Zeus fasteners. Maybe I need Zeus fasteners on this thing. But hopefully, look, once we get to where we need to be, maybe we're not taking the glass out often. And hopefully I don't tilt this thing upside down and the lead that I just put in there for this RTD doesn't come off. So I hate to do this because I'm taking the glass off and moving this RTD around, but you know what? I don't want to have to mess around with this too much. So I'm just going to stick this one right here. Hopefully that doesn't impede heat transfer too much. All right. So let me pause this while I get things set up for taking the back off, putting the other RTD in there. All right. So I'm going to start over here in the bottom by taking this off. It is a little dark over here because the sun's just now coming up. And I'm thinking about putting wheels on here to make this thing easier to move around. For testing, that is. Wheels won't make any sense once it reaches its final destination. One of the questions I got last night was, what are you going to use this for? The idea is out in West Virginia at my garage where I heat the kitchen. This versus the space heaters would do a wonderful job for a good part of the day. Even in minimal sun, I was watching the data yesterday. It was still pumping out heat with minimal sun going through it. I missed one. So the one thing I do like about it, it's not hard to take things apart so we can make changes. Now I did bring something over here so I can pry this open. Just gotta find where I put it. All right, I've got to take, I've got my little pry bar. I've got to take this insulation off the fan also, which is zip screwed on there. So I need my other bit to get that off. I remember it hitting the floor over here. Sorry about that. Let me pause that so I can get that bit. All right, we're going to take this section of duct off here. I put zip screws in it in the other video that I haven't released yet. This was a 6-4 that I put on right here for duct, and I had to put that on there because you couldn't just put the 4-inch duct on, so I needed something better for that to adhere to. And I know my duct knife is over here somewhere. It's always the things you think about after the fact that you could have been better organized. So I may have moved that to the other garage, but the reason I got to take this off is I need to get the fan screws off. we go. All right, so I took all that off because, you know, 2 measurements we need to get up here, up top. And there's one other change that I'm thinking about making, and let me get this up close. This is that 1-inch plenum that I have inside. So 2 layers of insulation, or maybe it's 3/4 because it's not really a 1x2. So that plenum is the entire width and the entire length. What if I kept the width of the plenum at 12 square inches? So down at the bottom, you are triangulated on the 2 sides and then 12 inches wide, and then, you know, trying to direct every bit of that to right here. So I think that may help, because then I'm not trying to have any thermal losses with the entire double surface area, top or front and back, across 30 by 36. We triangulate, and then we go 12 inches wide, and then we triangulate from 12 inches to this fan. So that's what I'm thinking about doing also. So let me think about that during the day today. But we're going to look at where we want to put these last RTDs. Because I want to have one that's probably right about there. And then I need one that's right in the back. So as we take this back apart, and now this is where the square piece comes in. And obviously we forgot another one. This is where this comes in handy. We would pry this off. So there's the back. And what I was talking about was in terms of how the back here, and now you really see it. Here's where we exit the drip edge, and we come up to go to the fan. And I use that whole surface area. I was thinking about triangulating up the side, 12 inches wide, and then kind of triangulating again towards that fan. Or stay 12 inches wide and go right to the fan. Yeah, so from 12 inches, I would triangulate toward the 4 inches here. That's what I would do. All right, so the next RTD, I want to know what this temperature is right here. So this area here, I want to know exactly what it is. So I would stick. So we got the inlet to number 7. I want the outlet of number 7. So that's what I would do in here. And we'll never really know what it's doing unless we have multiple places where we're taking temperature readings. And again, these are made by Yolink. I like these because they capture the data, and I can track and trend the data over time. So I can see rate of change. I can see the results of all my tests. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is the one that we would want this in. So ideally, I want it to sit right there. So let me see if I can get a piece of tape to get it to stay in the one position where I want it. And I don't want it contacting that metal. So I just want it laying right inside the insulation right there. So I wanted to get the actual air temperature over surface temperature. So I'm more okay if it was lightly contacting the insulation. I don't want it to contact the metal. All right, right there, it's not contacting anything. All right, and then for the other one, that's right up in that area. So I'd love to know what it is, and I'll get it as it's exiting that fan. So again, this was 3/4 dowel is what this is. All right, so that came out a little bit. So we'll deal with that the right way. RTD stayed exactly where it should be, which is good. There we go. When we put this back piece on, it'll get everything back to where it should be. All right. All right. Put all these screws back in. What's going on there? These are all the long screws because they're going into the dowels all the way around. And then there'll be 4 long screws for the fan also. And I just use this paneling because I already had it. I think if I did it again, I'd use something a little thicker. All right, I'm gonna pop that fan back on. The fan is just screwing into the paneling and the styrofoam. So that's something to be mindful of. So don't ever overscrew this. And the protective screen is good because as we took it apart a while ago, you could still see there was some trash still in there. So these screens are helping this expand, not absorb trash. This is a good video that shows how much time it is involved to take it apart to make changes. So I think that helps viewers understand, you know, if you build this, what it's going to take when you want to change this or change that. So not too bad. Just got to make time for it. All right, there we go with that. And this is the rotation that needs to go in. Our duct tape fan shroud still looks good, but we'll put some HVAC duct tape back over it to make sure it's holding on good. We don't want to lose any CFMs because we did a terrible job on this. I see a little daylight in there, but we'll fix that. So temperature, there is a temperature that we want to get right here. So I'm going to pop a hole right here in the top. We're going to put the next RTD right through that because I want the temperature closest to the outlet so that we have a comparison with the temperature over there, so we see what kind of thermal losses we have through the ductwork. So I think that's important for us to know in the testing. Anywhere where we have thermal losses. And when this thing gets installed at its final destination, there won't be any ductwork because we'll get it mounted to the wall. So whatever thermal losses we have through the ducting won't matter. So we'll go with whatever the final outlet temperature is. And that's what will guide us on its performance. Well, I mean, minimal ductwork, right? Just the ductwork to get it through the wall. All right, and there we go. And I put it so it's not contacting anything. And you can see it's hanging right about there toward the center. So that was important. We don't want to be contacting any of the heat transfer surface. All right, like I was saying, we don't want to contact any of the heat transfer surfaces because we get some erroneous readings. So wherever we put our temperature devices, we want them to not be in contact with anything. So let me put a little bit of aluminum foil type of duct tape on here to hold our fan shroud and our squared around in place. And yes, I did residential and commercial HVAC for several years. So just spend a lot of time with that, spend a lot of time with a lot of things when it comes to electromechanical. But I love doing these experiments and working on these projects and then getting my son engaged and trying to find what interests him with these things also without boring him to death. All right, last thing, we're going to put this bottom part back on so we can button up everything. Get all the screws out here. Hope y'all found this interesting because I think, you know, opening this thing up to show you the ideas one more time in a more logical pattern using a microphone that you can understand and a better quality video was important, so folks could really take in why this was built, how it was built, etc., versus how it was presented during the construction video, which was a little haphazard because I was trying to figure it all out while I was building it. So I figured this version here where I'm explaining more, getting more into the details, is a way better video. And now we'll have a lot more data to capture efficiencies and what's happening. I could be totally wrong about the way I wanted this to be a multi-pass system. I could be totally wrong about it, but the data will tell us as we gather that. Yeah, I'm liking this paneling stuff less and less. But for now, it's lightweight. I can still pick this thing up and move it around. The heavier it is, the harder it's going to be to deal with. And what do you know it? I don't have any leftover screws. And we got the last piece to put on, so that's fantastic. There we go. All right, what we're going to do now, I'm going to move it outside. We're going to get it prepped up for hooking up the hoses.